Welcome to a quick presentation of a project I've been working on the past few weeks. I started working on Quake, Quake engine. Someone ported to JavaScript, and I found this project because I got bored and I was like, okay, let's look into if there's some native JavaScript porting, because I know there's a lots of ports using emscripten, which is some kind of bytecode compiler thingy. But I was looking into if someone actually has been working on a Quake port to JavaScript, utilizing also JavaScript features. So I found this port, and it's actually a fairly straightforward port from the original source code written in C to JavaScript. So, to my surprise, it didn't really use any of JavaScript's features. It even ported some standard library features which JavaScript already had, like A2F, which is passing a string to a float. It was re-implementing them for some reason. Anyway, I started looking into it in more detail, and I thought like, yeah, let's start playing around with it. Let's see how is it working, how good is it, and what can I actually replace in like a modern way, or like, so one of the features JavaScript is having these days is support for classes and polymorphism. So I thought like, let's give it a try. Let's have something to do during the holidays. And yeah, I can show you the original work by this guy. I think it's based on someone else's work, but this is what I found. And looks like this. It's pretty cool. Yes. So I thought like, this is cool, pretty neat. Then I started playing around with it, and I came to my version where I started looking at the network code first, because I was like, okay, this is like this is all single player, so there's no multiplayer support. There's some multiplayer support, but it's kind of ripped out. The version which it was based on, I found out it actually has multiplayer support. But yeah, I re-implemented it on top of this version again. So this is what I did. I also started working on a dedicated server version. And actually I can start it real quick. So you can see it also comes with like a small shell. You can have like all the features, all the commands are available, or variables you would expect from a console. And yeah, it works this way. You can type in connect localhost, which would now connect to the dedicated server. You can see client connected. You can tap in here, like, yeah, this is the real deal. This was the first thing I actually changed or improved or put back in without reading like the previous code. I based it on top of the loopback code and cleaned up a little bit the network code as well. Because like I said, this is more a straightforward port I found, which is porting everything in more or less in a C-style way, not really using all the features JavaScript has, especially the language features. So yeah, but then it piqued my curiosity. I was like, okay, what else can we implement? So I started looking into some issues I had with the sound system. And I also started tinkering around with like, what about sounds? Do you really need them? Because it was loading quite slowly on my system, and then started adding a feature which would load sounds whenever they are needed. So this led me down the rabbit hole of actually fixing a lot of structural things. So the original code wasn't using uh, request animation frame, for instance, and since it's also not using async and await, because back then this wasn't really a feature, it's now there. But also how Quake was structured is completely different. It's like nowadays computers, they work things in parallel. Back then in the 90s, the computer was doing one thing, and Quake also needed to make sure that everything has been loaded and there's no background loading whatsoever. So I'm adding a few features of that nature just to play around with a couple of concepts to see how far you can actually add new features to it. Yeah, so subsystem, there was also a few bugs in it which were throwing errors all the time, almost on each frame. So led me down to rewrite the sound system using the current web audio API and using audio element as a fallback, which already existed in the previous code, but there were a few bugs and some API calls deprecated, so I had to actually replace them. And then I started tinkering around with the more stuff, and right now I've been looking mainly into some improvements down the Quake C VM rabbit hole, because I don't know if you guys know about this, but Quake is using a virtual machine to execute game code, and game code is written in Quake C. Quake C really looks like a little bit like C, but it's different. It's quite simple, but all the game logic is written in this code. The idea was to give people the opportunity to work on more sophisticated mods back the days. And yeah, it's quite interesting because how this VM is integrated in Quake is like it's completely intertwined with everything in the engine. I can show you one of the files which is holding all the functions. So yeah, I've been working on this, trying to separate it a little bit. I wanted to make it more abstract so that I could also build an interface to have like the game code completely written in JavaScript. This would be nice to add some more features back in. And yeah, this is like learning and trying out a few things. Let's see how far I get. Also I made a huge list of actually things I want to improve. Reduce the code smell. There's a lot of things happening at a global state level because Quake did it. So this code is copying all the shortcuts and flaws from Quake into the JavaScript world. I'm trying to sort it out. Also, there's a couple of improvements I want to work on. I found some errors, some small glitches. And yeah, the biggest part is gonna be I want to make sure that Quake C is more separate and all the server settings is more server infrastructure, server interfaces, they are more abstract, so I can use JavaScript to have complete game code available in JavaScript. Also want to work a little bit more on network. So right now it works. I want to set up like more like a lobby system, stuff like this, so that people can quickly send out a link and it will create a lobby where they can play together. Right now it's following the traditional concept of Quake. You have one dedicated server and people can join. But once the global state with like server and everything is clean, it would also allow to spontaneously spawn servers on demand and things of that nature. So I think this is already quite a lot to give you a quick introduction to what I'm working on. It's a hobby project. Like I said before, it's I started during the holidays, and it's mainly to play around with a few concepts, learn some things. I've been learning a lot of about WebGL, for instance, or like the web audio API. I didn't really know, I haven't really known of it before, so this gave me a nice opportunity to dive into it. And yeah, especially coming down to this whole Quake C stuff, I'm gonna play around with like transpiling Quake C to JavaScript. This is gonna give me an opportunity to get familiar with yeah, ASTs. And yeah, let's see. It's gonna be an interesting project and nothing serious, just to play around. And now and then I want to share some progress on this channel, and at some point I also want to deploy it. Yeah, alrighty, that's about it. Have a good one.